Hey, everybody. Good morning. Testing, testing. Make sure you can all hear me. Awesome. Okay, cool. If you don't know me, my name is Kirsten Rosso. I am the manager of customer marketing here at Hireology. Thank you all for joining us for our first Customer Connect event of 2023. I'm really excited to be here with you all. We have a packed agenda, so we're going to get into it in just a second. I will say that you'll hear me moderate throughout the conversation. You'll obviously see my face. But if you have a question, if you enter it into the chat or the Q&A section, you'll be hearing back from Jessica Baldwin. Jessica is our customer marketing lead, and she will be leading the chat conversation. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So first up, we're going to have our CEO, Adam Robinson, here. If you recall, in the end of last year, we actually surveyed over 1,000 employers from our key verticals, and we talked a little bit about what they're doing to attract top talent. So Adam's going to go over some of the outcomes from that conversation. We're going to look at what your peers are doing to better understand how you can really get ahead. After that, Adam is going to go ahead and pass it off to Nicole Stull. She is one of our great CSMs, and she's going to talk about the need for speed and really connect that employer survey with our applicant survey. We'll talk about what employers are saying that they're doing, what applicants say that they want, and figure out some tactical resources you can implement right away to connect the two. Towards the end of the conversation today, we're going to hear from an actual customer. So we'll invite up Lindsay from Walzer Automotive Group. Lindsay's going to talk about how her and her team of recruiters have actually implemented some of these tools and really talk about the nitty-gritty and how she's measuring success on that. Like I mentioned, you're welcome to ask questions along the way. Jessica will moderate those, but we do have a little bit of time at the end for Q&A. So if your question doesn't get answered throughout the session, if it's for a bigger conversation, or I think maybe it's just not a one answer or a one-line answer, you might hear us follow up with you at the end, and we'll talk through it then. All right, without further ado then, Adam, I give the reins to you.
All right, great. Kirsten, thanks so much. And hello and welcome to Customer Connect 2023. We're so happy to have you here virtually, and we're so grateful for this group of dedicated customer champions. And many of you are veterans of many of these Customer Connects. So welcome back. If you're one of our longtime participants, if this is your first Customer Connect, thank you for joining us today. And you really, all of you together, really continue to push us here at Hireology to do bigger and better things. And if we haven't met before, my name's Adam Robinson. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Hireology, and I'm here to talk about some exciting new data we have to share with you all today. And so let's dive right into that. So if you've attended a Customer Connect event before, you know that I like to kick off sessions with a look at the latest labor report and jobs data to provide some context to where we're at in the hiring market and why what I'm about to discuss is just so critically important. And this most recent month was one that really exceeded expectations from an employment standpoint. In January, employers added 517,000 new jobs, which tripled the consensus estimate from economists, proving once again that economists are about as good as their job as weathermen are at theirs. And so at the same time, the unemployment rate dropped to 3.4%, which is the lowest it's been since 1969. What this tells us is that the job market is still as tight as ever. In a recession, which many people have said, the most forecasted recession ever that was supposed to be hitting us right around now, is not only less of a threat than experts predicted at the end of last year. Any kind of recessionary feel in the economy probably pushed out into the back half of this year or early next year, if at all. And so some additional highlights from last month's jobs report. Most of January's jobs growth came once again from the leisure and hospitality sector, with 128,000 jobs created. Wage growth slowed in January. That's a good thing, with the average hourly earnings actually falling 0.4 percentage points to a 4.4% annual increase, which is still high, but coming down on a growth rate basis. Labor force participation, which has been fairly stubborn below pre-pandemic levels, actually increased by 10 basis points to 62.4%, up from 62.3. And while that doesn't look like a lot on paper, 10 basis points on 150 million people in the workforce adds up to another million and a half people entering the workforce, which provides some pressure alleviation on the tight job market. And I know we are reading every day about the technology sector and layoffs in tech, but the information sector only lasts about 5,000 jobs on balance. So despite massive layoffs in large tech, Main Street technology and information tech companies continue to pick up that slack. So what this means for all of you, particularly in verticals like hospitality, healthcare, and retail automotive, is that after years of hiring difficulty, talent remains really tough to come by. And on average, across all verticals, there's still 2 open roles for every 1 job seeker. But skilled labor industries like the ones we continue to pour jobs into the economy make that ratio even more extreme in the industries that we all serve. And so getting ahead of this curve in an extremely tight labor market means all of you, especially those that rely on skilled labor roles, really need to become best in class in recruiting, hiring, and people management. And of course, that's why you're working with us, and that's what we're here to help you continue to do. So like I mentioned, we're still seeing a 2-to-1 ratio of job openings per job seeker. And that gap has remained pretty consistent since August, September of 2021. So competition for the very best of what's available out there in the applicant pool is really, really tight. In some markets, you're seeing unemployment sub 2%. Salt Lake City, Minneapolis are a couple of notable examples. And just to further illustrate this point, when we surveyed our database of job seekers last year, half of them said that in their most recent job search, they had applied to 16 or more jobs. And that's a figure some of you have heard me state before. I mean, that means that you're potentially competing with 15 other employers for every candidate sitting in front of you in an interview. And so we really need to find a way to get ahead of competitors and stand out in the eyes of today's top talent, because it remains an employee and job seeker driven market. But how do we do that? That's what we set out to find in our newest research, which is based on a survey of more than 1,000 employers, just like all of you, in the verticals that we all represent here. And so we asked about 30 questions on all things recruiting and hiring, from their top sources of applicants to what their challenges and priorities remain in the year ahead. And so here's a closer look at the industries represented, which again, you'll notice is a pretty good reflection of those of you here in Customer Connect today. So what did we uncover? Well, we structured the results in terms of 5 key opportunities for all of you to focus on to gain a leg up in today's competitive landscape. And so those are: first, redefining the work you offer; second, diversifying and optimizing applicant sourcing; third, investing in and promoting DEI initiatives; 4, prioritizing quality over quantity; and 5th, improving the candidate experience. So if you've attended one of these Customer Connect events in the past year, this is something you've heard me discuss before, but it remains really important. And that's the gap between what today's job seekers want out of work and what employers are willing to offer. So the opportunity here lies in finding a way to redefine the work you offer to meet the needs of today's job seekers and gain an edge over the competition. So to illustrate this point and to give you a sense of what job seekers are looking for, I want to take a second to revisit data from our spring 2022 survey of applicants. When we asked applicants what would motivate them to take a job that paid less if presented with 2 offers, only 14% of respondents said nothing. It's top pay, wins my business, so to speak. So what that means is 86% of job seekers are motivated to take roles by benefits that are not just the most pay. And this is really where we're going to focus here. So the top 3 you'll see here include flexibility, which really means schedule flexibility, career growth, and fulfilling work. But then in this recent survey, we surveyed employers on whether or not they offer these benefits, and the vast majority just simply do not. And so some highlights here. About 2/3 of employers in the survey aren't offering any kind of scheduling flexibility for hourly workers. 70% offer zero paid time off for hourly workers, and another 70% aren't offering career growth opportunities that are known and advertised. And so there's a really big gap between what job seekers today want, which you heard me talk about at the last Customer Connect, and what employers are offering, which is what we learned in our most recent study here. And so for all of us, what that means is there's a big opportunity to gain that edge on competitors by making a real effort to meet job seekers where they are on this spectrum and market these offerings in your employment branding efforts. The next opportunity we found from this most recent report lies within diversifying and optimizing your applicant sourcing. So too often we find that employers are relying on just one or two channels, really throwing money at these channels, hoping that more money equals more applicants. But really what works is diversifying and optimizing sourcing channels. That includes monitoring where your best hires are coming from and optimizing your strategy to prioritize those channels. So what are those channels you should be leveraging? Let's take a look at the data. We found that by and large, the channels that employers are using pretty even across the board, meaning that there isn't one channel that you absolutely have to prioritize above all others. Top commonly used channels include employee referrals, job fairs, school partnerships, and job boards. Now, it is interesting to see these in-person channels so high on the list, but I do think this is a reflection of how far we've come from the pandemic. In-person networking events are the norm again. And for many of you in the industries that you serve, in-person recruiting is a critical sourcing strategy. So like I said, this means that you have to have a presence across a diverse set of channels. Yes, digital job boards, but also in-person partnerships and yes, referrals, and then adjust and optimized over time based on what you're seeing. For some of you, one may be working more than the other, but the key takeaway here is really digesting the data, right? Look inside the reporting capability of the system and figure out what's working best and direct more dollars that way. So like I just mentioned, the key is understanding where hires come from. And there's a difference between a sourcing channel that simply drives a high volume of applicants and one that actually brings in qualified candidates that convert to hires. So as a follow-up to the last question, we asked, where are your hires coming from? Not your applicants, but your actual hires. Again, referrals topped the list. Then you see those in-person channels. And so you'll see career sites showing up higher than most sources as well. So again, it's a diverse set of channels, meaning it's important to look beyond the digital job board you may have relied heavily on during the pandemic, although those remain a critical and important source. So as you look at this information, I would encourage you after Customer Connect, go into your Insights tab in Hireology and just benchmark yourself against what the employer survey is telling us, and just see how you're doing and where opportunities to improve may live. Third, another takeaway from the results is that diversity, equity, and inclusion still is not a priority for most employers, which presents you with an opportunity to invest time and effort into your DEI programming in order to get ahead, because this is what job seekers increasingly want. First and foremost, working to build a diverse and inclusive workplace is simply the right thing to do. And on top of that, diverse and inclusive workplaces generally drive better business outcomes because more diverse perspectives lead to better ideas. That's what the research tells us. But diversity also has benefits when it comes to recruiting talent. So many of the job seekers in our verticals are more diverse, especially in the healthcare vertical, and younger generations in the workforce, that's your Gen Zers, really place a greater value on diversity. And in their analysis of where they want to work, an employer that prioritizes DEI, really lives that programming and those values, are ones that are much more likely to be selected as the one they go to work for. But despite the clear benefits to having a diverse team, only 15% of survey respondents, these employers, said they're working to either improve, revamp, or market their DEI programming to make their business more attractive to more applicants, meaning 85% of employers aren't doing any of this. And so even meeting the basics of defining a DEI policy and promoting it to applicants puts you ahead of 85% of the rest of the market. Now, later on, we've got our friends at Walser, who I think Walser Automotive, who are really the best in the business at doing this through their Women in Walser program and their diversity initiatives. And so it's a real living example of what works when you get this right. Now, among those that have promoted DEI, most still haven't implemented some of the most important aspects of a solid DEI program. So only 39% of employers say they've made an effort to include inclusive language in job descriptions. Only 16% mandate training around implicit bias, and less than half have implemented fair and inclusive interview procedures. So by prioritizing some of these things, not only are you doing the right thing, but you're also putting yourself at the very top of that 15% when it comes to DEI, which of course leads to higher conversion rates from applicant to candidate, from candidate to hire. So these are some really straightforward improvements you can make that have a lasting impact on your ability to recruit and retain top talent. Next, we're finding that most organizations are still prioritizing quantity over quality, which doesn't always have the effect many employers think it has on achieving hiring goals, right? Quantity feels good, right? It's great if your goal is to just bring in applicants, but for most of you, your end goal is to actually fill the roles with the least amount of time and effort invested with the right people that are going to stay. So it makes a lot more sense to place value on quality. So when we asked employers to rank their top priorities for 2023, guess what? Quantity was the top choice, right? Quality came in second, and then improving speed came in third. So most employers are still heading into the year with the mindset that they just need more and more applicants rather than trying to get better applicants and then moving quickly to convert those applicants to candidates. So the opportunity here ties into the opportunity I discussed earlier around channels. Put your effort, resources, and time into the channels you know not only are going to bring you volume, but are going to bring you quality volume that are right for your roles, rather than just volume for volume's sake. So if I get 100 applicants for a job and only 3 convert to hires versus 20 applicants for a job and 10 convert to hires, you can see, right, lower cost, lower time, lower complexity. You're bringing the right people into your hiring process through the right channels. You're just going to shrink time to hire, fill roles faster, maintain your team longer, and ultimately drive your business forward. For those of you in the healthcare sector, you're providing better care, and headcount equals revenue. And so the faster you're filling roles, the higher the quality of talent, the better the level of care, and the better your business performance. So it really starts with the recruiting strategy. Now, one of the channels specifically we know works really well from this survey is referrals. And you've heard me talk this game for a long time now, yet we follow up and ask how many employers are investing in improving and promoting their referral programs. By and large, they're not doing this internally at all. They may have a program, but it's not something that's a cornerstone of a recruiting strategy, meaning some people know about it, but it's not really managed or driven. For those employers that do these things, they say they're primarily doing so only during new hire onboarding. By the way, if you refer someone, we have this program. Very few are using tactics we know to be effective, like email and text campaigns on a consistent basis to your employee base with personalized messages encouraging them to participate. Those are all things you're able to do through your Hireology platform if you have access to Hireology referrals. So think of it this way. We know referrals drive the best quality hires, but the outcomes you get are only as good as the effort and strategy that you put into it and execute. And so investing in your program can really start to help you drive those better quality candidates and gain a leg up on competitors who are still trying to drive volume through traditional channels. And finally, there's an opportunity to beat competition by improving the candidate experience. So to illustrate this point, I want to start with the problem. And that's really shows up in candidate ghosting, which means a candidate, we define that as a candidate dropping out of the process suddenly and without communication. This year, we actually found that ghosting has gotten worse. In 2021, 84% of employers said they'd been ghosted by a candidate in the past year. But at the end of 2022, that number had jumped to 91%. And we know from our applicant survey last spring that the biggest reason why candidates are ghosting is that they've received another job offer. What that means is that another employer was able to move faster and sell a better story that incentivized them to say yes before they even showed up to talk to you. So the process was taking too long, or it just felt too unorganized or difficult to get through the hiring steps. So we can look at ghosting and lament about the state of culture in the United States, or we can look at ghosting and say, well, why is that happening? Primarily, ghosting is driven by speed and velocity in recruiting. And the same pattern goes for getting ghosted on an actual offer. So in 2021, 58% of employers said they've had candidates ghost after they've received an actual job offer. 2022, that number exploded to 82%. Now, again, most of the time, this is because another employer was able to move faster or provide a better hiring process for the candidate. So you're the second, third, fourth, fifth offer in the door, you're far less likely to get a yes. The first offer wins over 60% of the time. So, but then when we asked what employers have done to enhance the candidate experience, by and large, they're not doing much to make it either easier or faster. So about two-thirds of employers have not implemented mobile-friendly job application or process. 75% of employers don't offer any kind of virtual interviewing. And in the industries we all serve, this makes it really tough because most candidates who are working in person, and they can't just leave to go in to interview with you multiple times. So 75% of employers in our industries don't offer virtual interviews. They really cut down their ability to bring more people through. And 77% aren't using texting as their primary channel to communicate with candidates. So what this tells us is that processes are still rooted in the past. They're still not built around today's job seekers' actual needs and what they expect in a hiring process. And that's contributing to both lost applicants and lost candidates. Additionally, most respondents are still taking more than 2 days to even respond to an applicant. This is 2 days that an applicant could interview for and get a job somewhere else. If your competitors are able to make an offer in under 2 days and you're at 2, 3, or 4 days, why in the world would someone wait 2 days just to hear back after they submitted an application, right? So, we're moving to a world where the benchmark is being able to make an offer before the person leaves your facility in an interview. Now, healthcare is really leading the way here. And I'd like to push all of you to think about this question. What would it take for us to be able to issue an offer, conditionally, of course, while the candidate is still sitting in our facility? If we can do that, we are putting ourselves in the pole position to win that hire. And hiring processes are, for the most part, taking more than 2 weeks start to finish, which again, if you think about how fast great candidates get hired, the top third are getting offers in less than 2 weeks. So there is an opportunity here to speed up the process and capture that group of highly sought after job seekers. I'll say it again, the biggest thing you can do to improve your hiring results are review applicants faster, same day, respond to same day, and make offers faster, right? Shrink the gaps between the steps. So to summarize, although the hiring market continues to be really challenging, there are ways you can get ahead as an employer looking to hire and build your teams. So based on our current survey of these 1,000 employers, just like all of us on the call here today, the top 5 things you can do to gain a leg up are redefining the work you offer, diversifying your applicant sourcing, investing in promoting DEI programming, prioritizing your quality channels over just quantity, and improving the candidate experience. Now, if you do all 5 of these things, you can and will position yourselves to capture, hire, and retain today's job seekers at a rate far greater than you've been able to in the past, and more importantly, better than your competitors for that same talent. And as you all know, we here at Hireology are here to help support you along this journey. So whether or not you're trying to tackle all of these things, or you just are looking for some guidance and support on moving faster or driving referrals, that's why we're here. So not only is our tool built exactly for these purposes, but our team of customer success experts, and you're going to hear from one of our best here in a second, and Kirsten on our marketing team, we're all dedicated here to providing you with the strategy, advice, content, and research to help you win in these areas. So if you ever need guidance, we're more than just software. We're here to support you. Do not hesitate to reach out to anyone on our team, me included, and we'll jump right in and help. So with that said, you'll see on the right-hand side of the screen, you can scan this QR code to download your copy of the report that has all of the details of the data I summarized today. There's some really good stuff in there, so make sure you take out your phone, follow the QR link, and download the report. And it'll have everything in there in depth that I've covered today. And so that's it for me. Amazingly, Kirsten, I have managed to come in on time for a presentation. That'd be the first time in 12 years. So thank you all for being here. I hope some of this sparked some thought for the rest of the meeting today. And right now I'm going to transition over to Nicole Stull, a CSM, Customer Success Manager on our team, who's going to dig deeper into using our tools to help you really hone in on that last opportunity we discussed, which is improving the candidate experience. So thanks, everyone. Always an honor to be here and to talk with you. Thanks for working with us, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam. I'm excited to dig in deeper on the tactics you can implement immediately to improve your candidate experience. So let's go. All right. As Adam said, my name is Nicole Stull, and I'm a customer success manager here at Hireology. We just reviewed the top takeaways from our recent employer survey and showcased where employers are missing the mark in attracting that top talent, as well as closing that gap. So last year we conducted a similar survey, but focused on 6,000 US adults who had applied to at least one job in the last 6 months. I'm going to take the next 30 minutes to dive into tactics that you can implement to create an accommodating hiring process, focusing on how you can communicate to your applicant pool, connecting what applicants shared they're looking for in a job search to the opportunities cited from the employer survey as well. So to set the stage, let's review some data. All right, today's job seekers apply to at least 10 or more jobs. They're also getting hired really quickly once they begin to throw their name in the ring. So 43 of our respondents got hired within 2 weeks. That's 2 weeks from that initial application to when they received an offer, which is extremely speedy. Applicants who are looking for steady work on someone else's payroll are able to get those jobs fast. Next up, 90% of applicants are willing to text with a recruiter if it will move that process along faster. I don't know about you all, but I have my phone next to me 24/7, so this definitely makes sense. 90 seconds is the average amount of time it takes to read a text. 90 minutes is the average amount of time it takes to read an email. Applicants want to move fast, and they don't have the patience for when things go slow. So if you use text, they will respond faster than email. And if you use mobile, you're reaching them where they want to be reached. Next up, slow processes are a major cause of candidate ghosting, as Adam mentioned before. Defined as candidates not showing up for interviews or even ignoring offers with no explanation. In our employer survey, 84% of employers say they've experienced this phenomenon in the last 6 months. When we ask candidates if and why they ghost, only 20% admitted to doing so. So of those who said they have, 43% said they do so because the employer just didn't respond fast enough. So if you're taking even a few days to respond to an applicant or your process is drawn out, you're likely missing out on the best of the best as these folks are moving on to competitors quickly. And given the state of today's labor market, top candidates do not have time to wait around for you. They have plenty of other opportunities right at their fingertips. Next up, for candidates, mobile is their main tool of communication. As I mentioned, my phone is next to me 24/7. I have a feeling everybody is similar, but the applicant study showed us just how critical mobile-friendly communication is. So 52% of job seekers said their entire job was done from their job search was done from their mobile device, which is massive. All right. So now that we're all on the same page about what kind of experience job seekers are looking for, let's review how we can use tools within Hireology to accommodate that process for job seekers' expectations. All right, first up. So we're going to focus on a few specific tools already available in Hireology: communicating via text message, the Hireology inbox, and the mobile app. So now that we've established that applicants are looking to move fast, they want mobile-friendly process, and we know from Adam's conversation around the employer survey, generally speaking, employers are missing the mark. So how can the tools available in Hireology give you the inside edge? First up, speed with SMS. You can speed up your time to hire by 4 days when consistently communicating with applicants via text message. Next up is inbox. 50% reduction in time to respond to candidate messages since we released recent enhancements to the inbox feature, which we'll dive into. Mobile app. Hireology accounts who use the mobile app to make a hire were able to decrease their time to hire by 6 days total. All right, so let's discuss how to implement these tools to meet your candidates' expectations for a hiring process. So building out communication templates is key to that fast outreach and setting consistent expectations with that candidate. Okay, so let's discuss how to implement Hireology tools to meet our candidates where they want to be met. All right, so what we're going to do here is walk you through how to build out a template. So remember that all this data supports mobile and text-friendly first. To get to those templates, we're going to go to our settings. We're going to hit SMS templates. From in here, you can also adjust email if that's something you would like to do, but today we'll do SMS. From here, you can absolutely edit any past messages. You can archive some if it's no longer serving you. Today we'll create new. First up, your title. Think of this as an internal name for you and the team to keep organized when you go to send this template. The candidate or applicant won't see this, so just know that that's internal. You can copy paste. You can also use dynamic fields. These dynamic fields will be filled in when you hit send. So don't be alarmed if you just see kind of a bracketed field there. Once we save that, now that template is accessible when we go to text our candidate. All right. Next up. Okay, so dynamic fields. I briefly mentioned those, but dynamic fields enable you to add unique details and personalized messages without having to remember or look for certain information every time you send that template. When creating a message template, select a dynamic field from that little drop-down menu to insert it into the message. The field will automatically be replaced with the correct information when you do send the message. So the dynamic fields are available in your Hireology account, but essentially this helps you with shorter communication, typically yields a faster response time, and is more approachable for a candidate. Make it clear what you are looking for in a response from your candidate. This cuts down that back and forth and keeps your process moving. Remember, Hireology customers were able to reduce time to hire by 4 days when consistently communicating with applicants via text message. Also, just as an FYI, for participating in our Customer Connect event today, you will be the first to get our new template recommendations. So this will give you a head start to implement into your account to drive that velocity. So keep an eye out for that. Okay, so we discussed how to create SMS templates. Now let's dig in on how to send and manage the communication effectively. All right, so you may recall a previous inbox experience where selecting a message would take you into the account or the location where the candidate was located. You want to communicate with, that candidate in that report card. You would have to then zoom back out, go to the inbox, and continue communication with other individuals that way. We heard you, and that experience was not necessarily supporting your communication as intended. And definitely we needed to take some steps to improve that. So overall, we know that timely communication is critical in the hiring process. Inbox solves the challenge by giving customers one single place to go for all communication. This helps keep them organized, ensures that no messages fall through the cracks, and empowers them to engage and hire candidates faster. So by enhancing the functionality of Inbox, we were enabling our customers to better handle all applicant and communication first and without that disturbance of the current workflow. With all communication centralized, Inbox makes it easy for you all to review messages and respond right from there. So you no longer have to be redirected away, but rather have the ability to respond to those messages directly in Inbox. This allows everyone to keep easy communication, keep track of everything, and move with urgency. So pick up where you left off with other team members is a great feature that's been implemented as well. You can see other messages that have been sent with those candidates, which overall decreases time to respond, but also allows you to work collaboratively. So remember that Hireology customers were able to reduce the time to hire by 50% by using the recently enhanced Inbox feature to drive that communication. All right. Next up, we'll walk you through some of these enhancements. So let's click on the Candidates tab under the job in which we would like to send a text from. When you select SMS, you can either type a message directly in the box, or you can select a template. You will notice the dynamic fields will not reflect the information. However, rest assured that when you hit send, that information will populate. All right. If the candidate does respond, you will be alerted via email. However, you can also see a notification from Inbox. So let's take a look at that there. When a user clicks into Inbox and selects a message to review, they will no longer be sent to that specific location the candidate is located in. Now, when they click on that, the message will appear and they can directly leave a message response there. So a module will appear allowing them to respond directly to the applicant or candidate. All you need to do is hit reply. If the message was sent via email, you can respond via email, text, the same thing. All templates within their account will be accessible right in that Inbox feature, as well as the dynamic fields. As we know, all communication will also be housed under the candidate's history profile, but overall users will be able to see the applicant's name, job title they applied to, and they will also have that ability to click on candidate's profile from Inbox. All right. Next up here. Okay, so mobile app. So overall, we know that the mobile app will decrease your time to hire by 6 days. So let's go through it. Overall, on this next screen here, you'll see a couple of QR codes. I would love it if everyone would just pull out their phone, which I know is right next to them, and go ahead and download the mobile app if you have not already. If you don't get a chance to do it right this second, that's totally okay. It is available in Android and iPhone form, so feel free to download that later. But all you'll do is download the mobile app, use your Hireology login to access that. In your phone settings, definitely want to turn on those push notifications for the Hireology mobile app. Remember that speed is the key here, so being notified as someone applies and being able to respond effectively is going to be key. Now let's talk through your next step as you get into the app. All right. So when you first log in, you will see that you are able to throw in your credentials, but you'll also see the number of unreviewed applicants. You can also see that the number is broken down by position. So we'll select a specific job to start reviewing to pull up an applicant or applicant view of your unreviewed database. As you review, you have the ability to assign a star ranking, call, email, text, view documents, view that pre-screened survey. You can assign tags, leave comments, decline, skip, advance, or you can also look over those messages. For this applicant in instance, you can see that we have notifications for SMS, telling us we have a message from this person. So we can click on that conversation and go ahead and reply right from within the app itself. We will also then go ahead and advance her. So in this case, what we'll do is after we've established the conversation, we're going to click advance. When advancing or rejecting on the mobile app, you do have that opportunity to configure a delay send of a rejection letter or an invitation for an interview. You can also click into the prompted email and edit if needed. We're going to toggle this one off for this example, but we will select advance to confirm our next steps, and this applicant will now be in the candidate status. Now we're prompted to review the next applicant for that role. However, let's move on to the inbox. Similar to how you saw the SMS notification on our sample applicant, if you click into messages, you will see all new or reviewed messages. You can quickly respond from in here as well. As in the desktop version, you can also click on that person's profile if you need a refresher on who they are. Heading back to inbox, you can toggle between new and reviewed messages. And you can also pull down the page to refresh and show any new messages you need to respond to. All right. And that's everything in terms of mobile app and that inbox feature there too. Okay. Next up, this looks pretty familiar, but we have our QR codes again. So definitely make sure to download the mobile app, make sure that that's on your phone, get logged in, start reviewing people on the go. This is a massive, massive helper for any potential hiring managers or hiring individuals that just don't have time to log in on the desktop. So definitely get that downloaded and let's start using that now. Also, if you have downloaded the mobile app, you can take a screenshot of the fact that you've downloaded that and feel free to email that to Kirsten. And what we'll do is put you in for a chance to win a swag box valued at $150. You have to send that by 3/1. So definitely if you're on the line, you're downloading that mobile app, get that in now. You want that swag box, I promise. All right. And that's it from me. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Nicole. We are right on schedule, if maybe a little bit ahead. Again, a remarkable feat. I want to take a second. I know there's a couple questions that came in while Nicole was chatting, and let's go ahead and just kind of answer them while we're here. Number one, yes, this will of course be recorded and sent out to everybody afterwards. So there was a couple questions about that. Just make sure it's clear. And then there's a good question about how is SMS feature in Hireology on a PC different from the app? So I think that was asked actually a little bit before Nicole went through that demo. So I think it answered the question, but you can see it's a very similar experience. You'll have all of your templates there. You can respond right from that inbox feature. Nicole, did you have anything else to add?
No, I think that's it. If you do have anyone at Hireology, either a CSM or even call into our support team if you're ever confused or want to learn more, more than happy to help there. But yeah, similar to what you kind of saw, you can customize things in the PC or rather the web version, and then utilize it on both.
Perfect. Another good question talking about, is there a way to set up an auto response notification to the applicant when they submit their application? That's a really good question. Right now, our recommendation would typically be to use that pre-screened survey email. That's an automated message that someone would get right away. You can customize the content, the subject line, whatever you'd like to do. But that is definitely noted. And I know we're working quite a bit on automation. I won't spoil any surprises, what's coming down the pipeline with our product team, but I do know that that is definitely on deck and something that everyone is eager for. So right now I would use the pre-screened survey email. You can find that again under settings, email templates, and it should be in the pre-populated list. So you can customize there. I'm just scrolling through the rest of the questions. Let's see. Okay, I think we're set for now. We'll save a few for the end. and we'll go ahead and move on. So thank you again, Nicole. Thank you for adding to the Q&A too and backing me up with my Hireology facts.
No problem.
We're going to go ahead and introduce our customer conversation in this. I'm really excited to have this. In past Customer Connect events, we've had customers speak up or kind of share their process. And we really want to formalize that and kind of put a little bit of reality to all these recommendations. I think a lot of times we attend webinars, we walk away with great ideas, but then it gets lost, or it's like, well, what do I do next? Where do I start? So I'm excited to bring up Lindsay. Get my next slide. Oops, sorry, one too many. All right, so Lindsay's going to talk to us in just a second, but I want to read her bio for you all because it's pretty impressive. You can see she's the Director of Talent Acquisition from Walser Automotive Group. Her theme in life: be prepared, have passion, find your purpose. Lindsay's actually been working for Walser for about 14 years, and she started as a part-time call center specialist, so quite a career growth story there. Worked her way through college while attending the University of St. Thomas, and achieved her bachelor's degree in musical performance. Again, she grew her career at Walser, graduated from college, and was hired full-time in their growing BDC, or Business Development Center. She became the Walser BDC manager in 2016 and later the Director of Service Process Implementation. Like I said, today she is the Director of Talent Acquisition. The journey of leading others, seeking knowledge, building talent and careers, and creatively problem solving is really like a big passion for Lindsay, and I think you'll hear that as she chats through the process today. Like Adam mentioned, Walser has a really great program called Women in Walser. Lindsay serves as a committee co-chair member on this personal development committee. Again, they aim to provide diversity, accountability, while fostering mentoring and professional development events. So a really, really cool program. Always interesting to hear that. It's, you know, something desperately needed in every industry, and especially in automotive. On a personal note, Lindsay is a Sioux Falls, South Dakota native. If anyone else is in that South Dakota area, I didn't keep up with the chat of where everyone was from, but Lindsay's your girl if you are. She's a Green Bay Packers fan, Chicago Cubs, the Duke Blue Devils. She loves Wizard of Oz and anything Disney or Pink, which same, right there with you. So I'm excited to bring her up. Lindsay, if you want to go ahead and let's get your camera on, and I will go ahead and throw it to you. Let's see.
Okay.
Get it.
Yeah, the video's not turning on. I think it's saying that you have to start it. Okay.
No problem. We can hear you though. Sounds great.
Okay. Well, thank you for the amazing introduction. That was incredible. I couldn't have said it better myself. I am pleased to be here today to give you an overview of some of the most recent things that we've implemented for our recruiting team. We've had some evolution ourselves just with our growth and the way we want to attack the whole strategy of building talent for our group and emphasizing quality and behavioral assessment and providing action to everything we want to do. And ultimately, it comes down to extreme ownership on who owns what part of the process, whether that's the hiring manager or the recruiting talent team, in addition to execution and accountability. And so when we look at 32 locations that Walser Automotive supports from a centralized recruiting standpoint, the process has to be solid for it to be successful and for us to move through the necessary legal standpoints of hiring to the ease of the candidate experience. So we have 32 locations across the country, mostly founded and operating in Minnesota with a primary focus on dealership world. And then we go to our Kansas campus that we acquired in about 2017 with our Highline stores. And we do have some dealerships that are popping up in Illinois, but also we have some rental car affiliate locations in Dallas, Atlanta, and New Mexico. So some great growth in the past many years I've been here, but with that, we had to find a tool that works for us. So the team right now is at our corporate office in Minneapolis, which we've received what I've been told, our second most historical snowfall in the state's history today. So it's been an interesting morning for the staff and our stores. And we have 4 main recruiters supporting 32 locations, which, as you can imagine, the rec load can be a little bit high, anywhere from 50 to 80 open recs at any given point. Also, our weekly goals is something we really had to hone in on as a team. With the volume that comes at us, we have anywhere from 300 to 800 applications any given month, upwards of 1,000. We had to go, what is our goal? What's our target? And so each recruiter has a weekly goal that became our algorithm. And I really would pose this to the directors or leaders in this call to assess what that looks like for you. These goals match our volume and our stores' initiatives and how we achieve those objectives, but that it might not be for you. But how we broke it down into our official algorithm for our recruiting team is we have to screen, we have to have people in the stores in front of these leaders, we have to have extended offers and hires every week. And that matched a yearly goal for us previous year and to current year 2023. So 80 screens per recruiter, which would then transition to 24 in-person interviews or virtual, but an actual interview versus just a screen fact-finding call. And then 16 extended contingent conditional offers, which then should convert to 8 hires per recruiter every week. This then for us as a team would equate to 288 hires a month that are cleared, confirmed, and started. And that can break down by position as well. So the weekly goal that equates to a monthly or quarterly goal would be a strong takeaway that has been helping us in the past 60 days, which Kirsten and I put together for an upcoming slide. But the 3 stages of hiring is also something we measure. So beyond just screening and interviewing candidates and applicants, what part do they land in? We called it 3 buckets and 3 stages as it is on the screen. So let's say they've accepted, the background's in motion. Okay, that is important, but they have to move to the next stage. So let's say they clear, we have a start date confirmed. Yet still, they haven't actually started. We haven't seen their lovely face in front of us. They haven't been onboarded in orientation on day 1. So those 2 phases are very critical and could cause anxiety, candidate panic, the ghosting. So even though they've accepted, even though they've cleared, they are not an official hire and they have not counted in our books until they actually are in front of us day 1. So just a little bit of an overview of the group and then what we've adapted and established for our current state for building talent. So next on the screen, we talk about the process and how we put pedal to the metal, if you will, for our weekly goals and tracking of the stages of hiring. What Nicole talked a lot about is what we've really strived to do in the last quarter is the contact. Automation, number 1, when someone applies, and they need to have an immediate response from us. So the automation to set expectations, not only thank you so much for your consideration and your interest, but from there, what happens after that? There has to be something established from the hiring manager's end or the recruiting end of your expectations for reach out, for time to review to time to reach out, and then your average days for interviewing to eventually hopefully extending the offer into the hire. But the automation and then to the text-driven communication is your key of moving things along effectively, and same day outreach. Our goal is average days of first outreach for the manager should be within 24 hours max. We give the hiring manager the first day to take a crack out at really review and reach out on their behalf, but my recruiter then is day 2 no matter what. So average days of first outreach for us is an expectation of less than 2 days, less than 48 hours, but I would encourage everyone to push to that. And as Adam perfectly illustrated to start off the call, same day, the automation sets you up for success, but then there has to be that direct follow-up, as Nicole stated, with the text message. And then the call and email is really our backup. I find that if I can text first and schedule a time that works best very directly, I think that was perfectly stated by Nicole. When are you available to talk about this position you are interested in? Versus calling, hoping they listen to your voicemail that maybe shows up an hour later in their phone, or maybe email that they never read and it gets bogged down by all their promotional and social filters. So I would just make sure the text templates into when that happens is important and who owns it. Again, back to my first initial statement, extreme ownership. Who owns what part? If everyone's owning everything, we're not owning something. It's a matter of everyone has to have their own defined responsibility. So besides first contact, then it comes the actual interview. There has to be a level of partnership between the location management and understanding what it means when someone actually shows up for an interview, the timeliness, the preparation that goes into greeting that person, where they park, what they wear. All those things need to be illustrated to the candidate prior to their arrival. And the hiring manager or the one interviewing should also understand that explicitly, because that period of time from our first contact to the in-person or virtual interview is heavily ridden by anxiety or other interested opportunities that the candidate might be experiencing or looking for. So just ensuring that the partnership from the store level is important. And I'm seeing some things come through the chat. I will ignore that. I'll let Kirsten take that over. And the lifeline of the candidate for us is delicate. There's a point where we have to acknowledge that they're almost swiping for jobs at any point, just like a dating app, if you will. And if you're not on top of these initial first contacts and making your story known, the recruiter or the hiring manager knows exactly what your brand is, knows exactly what we're delivering, from the benefits to the brand pop proposition, what the job offering is, then maybe, lack of better words, your mousetrap isn't good enough. And so that lifeline of a candidate will drastically reduce and they will ghost you very quickly. So the communication that drives that conversation, from the automation to the texting to same day outreach to the level of which you're providing a service to that candidate, will make your process very solid. There will always be the exceptions to our rules, and hopefully that will be a minimum of 10% or less, but these basics can really help you take your team to the finish line. So then next, we want to talk a little bit more about offer and post-hire. Again, clear communication to ease that new hire anxiety, where they're going first day, what their schedule is for their first week or their first 90 days. If you have an onboarding orientation process, that should be laid out. It's a lot of work to build this up front, but it will save you a lot of time down the road where you can just replicate, repeat, and it's effective. I wouldn't take a job if I didn't know what my schedule was, or my training schedule, or what my first 30, 60, 90 days would be, whether it's more of an entry-level hourly role to a salary level role. It doesn't matter. A person does deserve that for their own well-being and clear understanding of what their expectations are. So from the offer to what happens as soon as they accept and what their background is, their clipboarding or their pre-hire orientation to day one needs to be explicitly stated. And I encourage that to be not only a text message of maybe a preview, to illustrating them where to go. Hey, check out this email I sent. It lays out all of your pre-onboarding information, to potentially even mailing it. We've got a little bit old school on some things, because when someone receives something in the mail after they receive an offer from you, it has an effect that it's real, it's tangible, they can touch it, they can feel it, versus another email. But always follow it up with a text or email, and continuing to be a lifeline through that stage of hiring. And that is the hiring manager and the dedicated recruiter. There should be a consistent touch base with that candidate that, hey, here's where you're at in the process. We're looking forward to seeing you. Day one is approaching, sending a reminder, ensuring they understand exactly where they're at. For us, time can be irrelevant, but for them, a day, 2 days, 3 days can feel like an eternity. And then furthermore, after they've started with us, hopefully that's the goal, we want to leverage the talent pool that's within. And every company has its own way of sharing maybe more of a general posting, but we started a Walzer talent community that shows all we have to offer. Maybe someone isn't sure where they might land with us or where their journey could go. We always call it the road, the twists, the turns, the curves, the stop signs, the pivots. So showing someone that hey, just put your name out there for us to see so we can reach out to you and have a wonderful introduction to who this person is, who we are, and almost place them, give them some options. You'd be surprised when you give someone that open book to share their story or what they might have to offer for just simple knowledge, skills, and ability to do a job. And you have the option to teach them your craft or the vernacular of the industry you reside in. That can be really promising. We just have that on our general career site, walsercareers.com, if you want to go look and see how we pose that, but showing that we have a talent option and a talent community plethora of variety for someone to join a corporation in the automotive world. And then beyond that, recruiter driven and supported. This goes back to what Adam was saying too, as far as the referral program, but even more so telling the story of who we are as a company, who you are and what you want the public to know you for. That has to be supported very strongly by your recruiters. They have to believe it. They have to know exactly the material that the company puts a lot of effort into, whether it is benefit driven, training driven, leadership driven, growth, career, diversity. Those things need to be very, very obvious and very honest, genuine, authentic. It should feel passionate and purposeful. And if your recruiter doesn't have that, it's like cheap lawn furniture. It folds, it cracks, and they'll ghost you even faster, and they won't believe anything they're reading or seeing at that point. And then the pipeline support. Growing your pipelines based on the wish lists of your hiring managers or the wish lists of what your long-term longevity retention goals are for the company need to be really heavily laid out. And everyone has trackers of different sorts that maybe don't live in Hireology, but working with your client manager as well through Hireology and how to best track these pieces of information to build your pipelines. For us, it's general manager driven to run a store. It's technicians, those who work on our vehicles that maybe can grow into service managers or fixed operation roles. But then we have pipelines for basic skills and abilities that we can then apply to particular positions in the company. So I would encourage you to just think creatively on what that might look like for your organization to strategically build those pipelines. So some results. I think numbers can speak to themselves. We've done a lot of talking and want to just share some really honest pieces of information from our group. We had some improvement we needed to really dive into. We had some shared responsibilities from the store level to the recruiting team, and it wasn't working that well. So instead, we redefined some ownership and put some goals out in front of us, a daily scoreboard. And our numbers drastically improved within a 30-day period. It was pretty exciting to see, and it was very simple, just back to the basics for us. So our average days to review an applicant between recruiter and hiring manager went from 4.76 days to 0.97 days. A huge increase for us, and it's meeting the candidate where they are. And that was from text message, the app-driven usage for sure, and constantly watching it. Our overall time to hire is usually between 9 to 12 days on industry average. I did see that come through, so I thought I'd answer it. And then our time to first outreach was 7.31 days, which is completely unacceptable, is now down to just over 2 days. From January, we are actually less than that in February now too, since we're a month past us reviewing this data. So it is really just showing the information to your team on a daily basis and to the store. We have to have a shared goal. And the pain in which someone is feeling their staff not being filled is not a great feeling. So when we show them this information and we share the numbers with all the other back-end data of just the general recruiting pool and the workforce out there, it does push the team forward. We all jump off the building together in a sense, and it does prove in the numbers. Our number of texts sent went up 10%. We've seen an even bigger increase since January. Text is where it's at. To Nicole's point, there's nothing better, there's nothing faster. but being direct and intentional is just something I wanted to add, ensuring that your messages are clear and concise. And then our number of hires month over month did have a 25% increase because we were more efficient, we were more intentional, and we were more process driven and prepared for the candidate upfront. And then their post-offer experience was far superior than what it was before. Okay, I think do we have one more, or is that it?
That's it. That's
okay.
Awesome. Whew.
And sorry, my video is still not on. I don't know why it's not working.
I know I was trying to finagle it a little bit while you were on too. I'm sure you even got dressed special, just like me, put on your clothes. Well, you go into the office, but
yes,
I was trying to help you out on my
blizzard
end.
and all. We're still here. We're like a gas station. We never close.
Never close. No, people got to buy cars. They got to service those cars. And you got to be there for them.
Yes.
Just like your applicants. If you wait too long, you'll miss them. They'll go to another dealership.
No doubt.
Awesome. So let's pause for a question, a moment for some of these questions that came in. I know you answered the time to hire as it came in, which is awesome. I wanted to get your thoughts. We had an attendee type in, is the same day expectation, even if we're not interested, or we're not sure that we're interested. What's your opinion on that, Lindsay? Would you still follow up even if they're not qualified, or you know that you're not interested in moving forward?
That's a really good one. And that's where the automation is key. At least they get an answer for the automated message, no matter what. We've actually discussed this as a team a bit, because you don't want to impact your numbers, but you also don't want to disposition someone inaccurately. So I would say if you know you're not interested, and it's obviously it's a solid standing ground that you should be able to disposition, whether they don't meet qualifications, they don't have the job history that you're looking for, whatever those minimum aspects are, then I would just disposition them right away. So they don't just sit in your pool or your bucket and impact your numbers. Because if you're not going to reach out to them, you absolutely know 100%. I would disposition them, send the reject letter, and move on. There is a sense where sometimes you do need to think about it, and that can take a few days. And we have that. But your overall average for most of your roles will drive that down no matter what. So I would say that can land in maybe your 25% of your people that might just sit there for a few days. You want to really assess. And then your other 75% should have an immediate reach out. Even if it's, hey, hello, we received your application. We're so excited you're interested. We are in an extended interview process right now, and it could take a few weeks for us to move things forward, especially if it's a manager role or maybe more of an executive role. And I know that varies for the audience.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. There was kind of a follow-up I just want to read out loud. This attendee says, we don't always send a rejection if we're not interested or haven't spoken to them directly. And that's a great point, Nancy. You were the one that typed that in. I think it depends, in my personal opinion, it kind of depends on the circumstances. If you think you might come back to them and you don't want to leave a bad taste in their mouth, maybe you want to leave the door open and you don't send a rejection letter. Maybe you have a different template built out that's a little bit softer, like, hey, we're going to add you to our talent community. You can expect us to possibly reach out within XYZ intervals. That's a good option.
Yes, reject letter can sound a little bit harsh, and it doesn't apply to everyone. It simply might be they apply towards the end of the interview experience. We've selected someone, we're moving forward, they start Monday. But this person did come through. Wow, they're really promising. So that would say maybe having a catered message, maybe a few of your templated options could be a little bit more softer. Mm-hmm. And I loved what you said, Kirsten, is, hey, we actually just finished this process, but we really like your experience and we're going to add you into our pipeline and be happy to reach out to you for a future opportunity.
Yeah.
But definitely. Getting them just, it's going to impact your numbers is my blatant point. And we've toyed back and forth with, do we leave them? Do we not? But the more they sit there, the more they're not touched, or at least don't have notes. It's going to impact your numbers.
Yeah. Here's another kind of tactical question for you, Lindsay. For that first initial acknowledgement outreach, are you using text or email?
Oh, that would be text for us. Yeah. Yeah.
So hopefully that answers the question. She has a text template built out, goes ahead and sends it out immediately so they're at least acknowledged, and then the recruiter, digs in a little deeper, kind of buys them a little time too. It's like, we see you, we know you're there, we know the
Yes.
line's long, maybe, or hopefully it's long, and we'll get to you.
Yes. And if it's a hot role as well, I send the text, but then I'm calling or the manager's calling. But no matter what, that text is there just as a note for sure.
Perfect. Awesome. I'm just scrolling back through. I want to make sure we get all the questions specifically.
Great question.
You. Oh, there was one, or maybe it was more of a comment about setting expectations for like what someone should wear when they come in for their interview.
Oh,
yes. I was thinking in my head, it's kind of a reap what you sow situation. You know, if you're of a millennial or older generation, you'd be like, well, of course, you know what to wear to an interview, but the world has changed a lot. And, tennis shoes are the normal at fancy school dances and anywhere you go now. It's just a different world. The trends have changed so much. Lindsay, what's your opinion on that? Do you feel like it's like spoon feeding them too much? What do you think? Why do you feel like the need to do that?
And really the apparel was more for their first day or for their first week or two, because not everyone has a provided clothing program or uniform. But just setting the expectations, we almost refer to as dress for your day based on location. But when there is a required uniform or expectation, if you're in a retail environment, the best way we describe it is business professional / business casual for the interview and then for your first few days. But then we give them a full FAQ sheet. Here's what our clothing program is. And I don't know the audience on here. Of some dealership groups and some retail environments allow their people to have a little bit more variety to their uniform, whether it's, okay, you have to wear dress pants, they have to be black, but your top could be X. So just, I lean more towards business professional, business casual as a standard. But when we have technicians come in, they're wearing jeans and and that's okay. But just sharing some sort of expectation. Hey, you're going to meet this person. This is where we're located. We face the Northeast. The parking is here. Business casual is our retail environment attire, and we look forward to seeing you. So I wouldn't say we stress it to the point where you better have a tie and you better walk up these stairs, go to this elevator. Like, we try not to make it challenging, but comforting, if you will.
Yeah, I love that. I think comforting is a big thing.
Comforting, yes.
It's scary to go get a new job or show up somewhere new you've never been before. It's hard. So those little things can really help.
Some people show pictures of their dealership or their location or things too. If it is in a complicated location, we're pretty obvious wherever we are. You can't miss us, but that's another thing that came up, or even a video. Just a nice welcoming video, not intrusive, but just again, easing the nerves.
Prior to this role at Hireology, I was an implementation manager, and I would go to dealerships and healthcare organizations all the time and do trainings and that kind of thing. And I had a manager one time say, "Can you believe our new hires parked right in front of the dealership? That prime spot, prime row there." And I was like, "Well, did you tell them not to?" And he's like, "Well, no, like they should just know." And I'm like, "Well, if they never worked at a dealership, like I wouldn't have known that or thought that. Like, I've worked retail in my life, and I know like back of the parking lot is pretty standard there. But if that person doesn't have that experience or point of reference, like you got to lay it out there sometimes and set your expectations to be met, or else you're just asking people to read your mind, which is never a successful tactic."
No, and it's really not to. I don't want it to be like, oh, well, we have to give them every answer to all. It's not that. It's just really a welcoming, easy way for us to just take away some of the nerves and give them a better experience. Like, it's as simple as that.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
It's almost like, why not do it? It is maybe more the approach.
I love that. I got another good question in from Yami for you, Lindsay. Does HR pre-screen 100% of qualified applicants before interviewing with the manager?
That is our goal. We try to do a fact-finding pre-screen, even if it's for a few minutes. Yes.
Love it.
But if the store wants to do it, again, this is where you have to really define your shared responsibility. Some of our managers are like, I want to handle it. Like, I know what I want. I'm all over it. But they have to do it too. And I know you and I talked about that. It's okay. If you say you're going to do it, you have to do it.
Yeah.
Or we'll do it. But most of the time, yes. And I would say this, the pre-screen calls are more just to verify. Is this the job you really were interested in? Hey, this is kind of the general expectation. Here's who we are as an organization. This is where the job location is at. This is the position. Wanted to make sure that we are all on the same page and Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so will reach out to you to further the conversation, or we'll set up an interview.
Mhm.
And it's really not even screening for the job responsibilities or if they're the right fit. It's almost to confirm and clarify and move them along. It does prevent ghosting.
Yeah. And I would assume that if you get that candidate in front of a hiring manager and they're like, oh, I thought I was applying for a technician job, and they're in front of the sales manager, everyone's kind of frustrated then. And
Right.
it's not fun for your team to hear that feedback, I'm sure.
No, not at all.
Sure. Let's see. I think this was kind of answered. At what interview stage do you assess the candidate? It seems like Lindsay, I won't take words out of your mouth, but you're reviewing that when you see their initial information come in, qualified, not qualified. You're setting expectations and coming to the, mutual agreement. This is the role you're interested in. Here's the next step. And then it sounds like the individual management team is the one really saying, like, this is the person for the job versus this is not the person, and using their, interview skills and questions to determine that.
Yes.
Right.
And we do have a full on, what we call Leadership University, but it has a full interview guide and questions based on different categories and roles. So it's been the strongest tool we've provided to our team. We have to strategically put things in place of our leaders at the stores that they're in the field every day. They're in the grind. They're in the day-to-day action. And if we can illustrate to them, these are the standard questions for these specific roles that we would like you to ask, they have many more able resources at that point.
Perfect. All right, we've combed through a lot of these. It looks like we've got some budding friendships in the chat of Debbie volunteering her welcome guide.
Yeah.
Introduces the new hire to the dealership, Q&A, end of lunch, parking, all of the things. So we've got some takers that Debbie is going to send out her welcome guide to. That's awesome. And like Nicole mentioned, it's certainly not like a welcome guide, but you all are going to get in your recap email after this a recommended template. So that includes some things from that Lindsay described, like that initial outreach, how do you set the expectations for the first day, setting out their schedule, what they should wear. And the nice thing, it's a PDF, but it's like a copy paste PDF. So you can easily put it right into your Hireology account, make tweaks for you, but it also includes Hireology dynamic fields that Nicole mentioned. So it's a good way, again, to take one step forward. It's like, okay, great. All these templates sound fun and this process is awesome. And Lindsay's doing great things, but like, again, where do I start? I feel like maybe I'm the only one with that anxiety and I'm projecting, but it's the where do I start conversation. And this should really, really help you out with that. But thank you, Debbie, for volunteering and sending that out to our friends here. That's awesome. I'm just kind of scrolling up here. I think we just had some anecdotal. Nancy wouldn't know about the parking thing either at dealership seats. It's not well known. You just never know. Here was a good note from an attendee. It says a rejection letter is only sent if we're not interested in them. We're transferring them to another role. They're transferred and the hiring manager is immediately pinged that this person would be better served in that open role. I think that's a great point.
Really good.
You don't want to close the door, but you want to make sure that next person is definitely on board with what that next step is. If we just transfer, you're like, well, didn't you see Bobby? He's awesome. Well, yes. I saw you transferred him, but I didn't really get it, or I didn't look. And you could definitely lose people there, which is not what you want. If you've got a hot candidate in the wrong role, you want to make sure that the person on the other end of that transfer is really on board with what you're doing and what they need to do from there.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay. Here's one more and then we'll move on. I've got another slide or two for everybody, but Gina's sharing, we have a new hire liaison program for all of our new hires. We make them a part of the team on day one. I love that.
Great.
I think that's a great way to edge those nerves too. You get started, you meet your manager, and then you're like standing on the floor, what do I do? Or you're about to go into your first client's house for home health care. That can be scary, but if you've got someone with you, if you've got, a buddy, someone who's been there, someone that you can be like, hey, where's the bathroom? Or like, what's the deal with lunchtime here? Or, what do I do if I need to do blah, blah, blah? Instead of going to your manager all the time, that's really, really helpful too.
Agreed. That's a wonderful point.
Awesome. All right, I'm doing one last scan. I think we've got answers to everything here. Cool. All right. So just wrapping up, I know this was alluded to when you all signed up for this virtual webinar, but we are excited to host everyone in person again this summer. We're a little vague on dates. We'll get more concrete details in the coming months here. But if you are interested in joining us in Chicago this summer for an in-person event, you can go ahead and scan this QR code. You can pre-register for the event, but rest assured we'll be sending plenty of communication about dates, times, wheres, whens, all the good things in the coming months. But if you're like, yeah, no matter what date, I'll make it work, or I'd love to be in the loop, go ahead and scan this to pre-register. It's a great way to kind of get on the list. We've already done a lot of Q&A. I should have switched these 2 slides, so bear with me here. But I think we've got every question then, so we can go ahead and wrap up. Thank you all for attending. I know these have sometimes been really long days. It's a full day thing. We try to condense it down to give you as much information, as much tactical information as possible in the shortest amount of time. But you will get follow-up that we've been alluding to. So you'll get the recording from this. You will get a PDF version of this presentation. You will get the text and email templates we've been alluding to. And then if you haven't already, scan that QR code to download the mobile app, or send me a screenshot of your mobile app, which I know a lot of people have, because I have over a dozen unread emails and it looks like they're all pictures of your mobile app on your phone. Go ahead and do that before the 1st and you'll be entered to win a fun swag box. We're excited to send that out to you. If you have other questions along the way, again, we'll have follow-up coming to you. You can reach out to me directly. Your customer success manager is always a great resource, and we will let you all go. Thank you so much again for your time. Everyone have a great rest of your day.